Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of Top 5, the show where I give you guys a top 5 list in the world of progressive rock or related genres and give you my thoughts on that topic, give a top 5 list. Off the top of my head, these episodes are meant to be a little bit off the cuff and just whatever I'm thinking at the time, not like super well researched or thought out, just kind of my general impressions, just to have a little bit of fun and really to turn the attention to you guys in the comments section to give your lists and what you think of when you hear this topic. So today's topic is one I've had rattling around for quite some time and thought it would be fun to kind of get this one out there and get you guys kind of thinking about this topic and what you would choose. And so maybe some of my choices will be a bit obvious, but these are really the standouts to me in this topic. So the topic is best 5 album runs. So basically, band that was able to create 5 incredible, great albums all in a row, consecutive studio album releases. And I think it's quite a feat to have 5 really stellar albums all in a row, no duds among them. And, it takes a band that has quite a legacy to just have 5 albums already to their name and have all 5 really strong and brilliant is just quite an incredible thing. So I'm focusing a lot on probably more classic artists here is what comes to mind, kind of the classic 70s, but I have a couple more modern prog artists also to kind of highlight here. So as for my honorable mentions on this list, the ones that almost made the cut and maybe on a different day would make the final cut, I thought about Jethro Tull. I love their 70s run, starting with Aqualung, moving into Thick as a Brick, A Passion Play, War Child, and Minstrel in the Gallery. Incredible 5-album run, and you could probably shift this to include some of their later albums from the 70s as well. But this is the core group that I really enjoy. I think they really took it to another level with Aqualung. A lot of people maybe don't love A Passion Play, and maybe even War Child has some detractors, but I really love those records and think they're primely positioned in Jethro Tull's prog period and have some wonderful stuff on them. I thought about Spockspear doing a more modern artist, and really any of their first 6 albums, but I'd probably pick Beware of Darkness, Through Snow, including Kindness of Strangers and Day for Night and 5. Just incredible run by early Spockspear. I think it's incredible music, and every album has something really to enjoy. Some people might quibble and say Day for Night is probably their weakest, but I actually really love that record, so I don't understand the criticism there. I just think these are all strong modern prog albums, well worth people's attention. Some of Neil's best, all right there in that span of time. Kansas has a great run from the 70s. They're starting with their debut record, Kansas, moving into Song for America, Mask, Left Overture, and Point of No Return. Hard to argue with that first 5-album run. Just a really incredible list of records there that solidified them as strong artists in the genre. And, I don't think they'd ever reach those same heights after this, even though they have some especially recent really good records. But this was their premiere period, and I really love this part of the band's discography. Porcupine Tree, I think they had a great run with Stupid Dream, Lightbulb Sun, In Absentia, Dead Wing, and Fear of a Blank Planet. 5 masterpieces to me. I think they're all great, starting with maybe their more poppier period, but moving into where they took some metal influences into their sound. And it's all incredible music that I absolutely love and adore. I also am thinking off the top of my head right now about Queen and their first 5 records as well. They have an incredible run, starting with their Queen album, Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack. You've got Night at the Opera, Day at the Races, I believe would be included in that mix. Just a fantastic run of albums for early Queen that I think is well worth highlighting as well. But now moving on to the list proper, and of course this is skewed by my own tastes and by bands that I just absolutely love and adore. I'm not sure everyone would totally agree with some of these choices, but at number 5 I have Dream Theater, starting with Images and Words, moving to Awake, Falling into Infinity, Scenes from a Memory, and 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Probably the weak point is the middle here, the Falling into Infinity, but I will argue that that's a better record than people give it credit for. I think it's really cool how they're infusing some different things, maybe a bit more of a poppier approach compared to some of the other surrounding records. But aside from that, if you think that's weaker, I think the other 4 albums are potentially their best 4 albums, and showcase all of the best of Dream Theater and what they were able to do in this period of time. Images and Words is just an early classic. Awake takes this and makes it maybe a bit darker and gives a different edge to their sound. Scenes from a Memory kind of gave them a rebirth, introducing Jordan Rudess into the band and really embracing their prog and giving them this really cool concept record. And 6 Degrees is a really unique record that gives them a double disc album. Both sides are really interesting and cool. This big epic at the end, that 6 Degrees suite is just perfection. And so these are all great albums that I absolutely love and think are deserving of just a premier 5-album run from one of my favorite bands. At number 4, I have Rush, starting with 2112, moving into A Farewell to Kings, and then Hemispheres, then Permanent Waves, and then Moving Pictures, I think is just pretty much right there. You get their classic progressive period, the big records as a progressive rock fan that a lot of people point to. And I think it's well earned. I think this is just a fabulous run of records that showcase their progressive side, their willingness to experiment and do these more expansive songs and, more fantasy inspired lyrics and things like that. And showcase some of the best of them moving into their 80s period, which would be more fully embraced after this. And Rush is one of those bands, similar to probably a couple others here as well, where you could probably snapshot different parts of their discography. Everybody would probably have a little bit of a different 5-album run that they think is the strongest by Rush. But this, for me, is what I think is the best, especially for a prog fan. At number 3, I have Neil Morse. And I just recently did a Neil Morse rankings. But I think his early run of solo albums is just fantastic. If you're a Neil Morse fan, these are all just huge releases. And if I could cheat, I would include Snow in this 5-album run, because I feel like in a lot of ways that was kind of the start of him doing these concept records that he was mainly the mastermind and orchestrator of, and it continued with Testimony, then into One, then Question Mark, and then Sola Scriptura. Just a fantastic run of all great, excellent progressive rock concept records. Your mileage may vary depending on the subject matter. A lot of these are more, Christian themed, and a lot of people argue that he repeats himself. But to me, these albums in particular have their own unique sound and feel to them, even if you get a little bit of that Neil Morse formula. And if Snow is too much of a cheat, I would include Lifeline at the end of this, which I think is an underrated record and has some really excellent tracks that are worthy of this 5-album run. I love the opening track. I love So Many Roads. So I would just tack this to the end if you're not going to count my Snow inclusion. Number 2, pretty much 1 and 2 are kind of the obvious, but number 2 is Genesis, and starting with Nursery Crime, moving into Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, finishing with Trick of the Tail. And I absolutely love Wind and Wuthering. I'd add that as like a 6th to this absolutely stellar list of albums. Genesis were on fire in this period in their career. All these kind of classic Peter Gabriel albums, and I think Trick of the Tail is a great one to include as well because of how strong it was out of the ashes of something that could have derailed the band. People were probably primed for a disaster with a whole different sound, but they were able to hold it together and produce one of their strongest records in Trick of the Tail. So I think it's a remarkable album that showcases some of the best in progressive rock. But I love all these albums. They all have a similar vibe and feel, this cool like fantasy inspiration. The world of Peter Gabriel is very strange and can be dark at times, but still playful and fun in its own way. And I love all these albums dearly. I think they're all classics of progressive rock. Must listens for anyone getting into the genre. And I feel the same way about my number 1 choice here, which is Yes. Starting with the Yes album, moving into Fragile, Close to the Edge, Tales from Topographic Oceans, and Relayer. Some people would even add Going for the One as kind of their classic period, their huge albums that every progressive rock fan should listen to and are well beloved. Probably the less loved candidate here is probably Tales, which has a little bit of controversy. Some people love it, some people don't. Some people feel it's a little bit self-indulgent and overlong and bloated, and a lot of people just don't get into this record, which is mind-boggling to me because I absolutely adore it and think it's one of the peaks of Yes and kind of showcases them at their most unapologetic, at their most progressive, just doing exactly what they feel they want to do. And I think it's a fantastic record that showcases some of the greatest adventurous spirit of progressive rock. And I absolutely adore it for that reason. But yeah, this run of albums is just breathtaking and mind-blowing that one band could come out with these masterpieces of music and in a lot of ways define a musical genre all of their own. And so I love this run of records. I think they're all fantastic. Of course, a lot of people point to Close to the Edge as like the pinnacle of progressive rock, and it's hard for me to argue that. The Yes album is a fun way to get into their prog period with some just absolutely stellar cuts of music that are still staples to this day in their live set. Fragile has Roundabout, has some really great longer extended songs. Heart of the Sunrise is a classic, has those little interstitial like solo spots, which I'm not sure I totally love, but I think is interesting conceptually. And then Relayer is just a fantastic exploration of just mind-blowing, crazy epic pieces. Patrick Moraz adds a lot of interesting jazziness and coolness to the equation. And it just makes for a singular, unique record in their catalog. I love Gates of Delirium. I think it's one of their premier epic pieces of music. So, bar none, just an incredible catalog here and one of the best 5 album runs by any musical artist. But let me know in the comments the ones I missed. I'm sure there's many others that you guys will point out to me that you absolutely adore by your favorite bands. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. Hopefully you had a bit of fun with me and will join me in future episodes. I try to put these out regularly, semi-regularly, along with all of my other content, reviews, and weekly news items in the world of progressive rock, and of course reactions with my wife, where she's listening to prog music for the first time. So a lot of fun to be had on the channel. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and hopefully I'll catch you in a future one. Bye everybody, enjoy the music.